Looks like we're live.
I think we're live.
Do you think we're live?
I think so. It says live up in the corner. It says we've been live for 9 seconds.
Look, I see us. We're live.
Look at that.
My goodness. Well, good evening, everyone.
Hey, somebody's here. Look at that.
2 peoples are here. It's a
Nice.
miracle. Oh, thank you for joining us. It is Tuesday, April 16th of 2019. It's the day after tax day. I hope you got your taxes done. If my saying that just sent a cold shiver up your spine, then you didn't get your taxes done.
Time to file an extension.
That's correct. We are 1 day late at this point, so hopefully you got that done. You have tuned in to Walking with God. I am your host, Kyle Walker, joined this week by my lovely and talented assistant, or co-host, or whatever you want to call yourself. Welcome back, Joe, everybody.
That's right.
Yay!
That's right.
Yeah, Joe.
That's
Woo!
me.
There we go. So, okay, the first thing I wanted to start with tonight, you guys helped me prove a point that I tried to make last week.
I want to hear it.
So I'm super excited about that. So when I said to you all, you charming and lovely, wonderful people, that the only way that this show grows is by your help, your shares. I asked you all last week very kindly to make sure you shared last week's episode. It was the most shares an episode has ever gotten.
How many?
Oh, double digits in shares.
That's nice.
I didn't look at the exact amount.
One was me.
One was you.
Yeah.
One was me. And then others.
Good.
So last week we had the most shares of an episode ever, and it is now the most watched episode ever. So yay! Sweet. That was exciting stuff.
That's exciting news.
At least for episodes that I did not beg Facebook to boost for us or pay them to boost, of just all of us working together. Last week was the #1 watch show we've ever done. And this is season 3, episode 14, and we're somewhere in the 70s on total episodes. So that was cool. That was exciting. That beat out one that we did last fall by about 50 views. So thank you.
Sweet. What did we do last fall that had a lot of views?
Well, it was just me.
Oh, it was just you?
You weren't in it.
I didn't figure.
I'm sorry.
I bring it down.
No, never.
I do.
So, yeah, that's really cool. So again,
Kid says you go, girl.
You darn right. Shoot, I don't know. I don't do sass very well.
You don't.
No, my daughters do it way better.
That's because they're girls.
Correct.
Yeah.
Send all your hate mail, care of Joe.
Amen. Yes.
And so let's see. I had a train of thought now derailed. Okay, so one thing not as funny that we're going to acknowledge over in France yesterday. Terrible turn of events with the fire at the Cathedral of Notre Dame. Just by way of historical landmarks, the thing was approximately 830 years old. So it has been around a long time. We definitely lost a building of historical relevance, no matter where else your opinions on that might lie. So just wanted to acknowledge that, our thoughts are over with the people in France. A lot of people really hold that building in high esteem for obvious reasons. And so that was probably quite a devastating time for them, but they're going to rebuild. There is already money pouring in to help the efforts of rebuilding that building. So they're going to be all right, but still, I'm a history guy. So it really kind of bummed me out to see such an old historic site burning.
Yeah.
So just wanted to throw that out there. Last week, we talked a lot about mental health, and really that this show is kind of, in a roundabout way, turned into a show about mental health and a lot of varying aspects of it. And something that goes along with mental health is what we're going to talk about tonight, and that be stress.
Yeah.
So last week for me, I was suffering from it big time. I didn't really share this. I'll just throw it out there, and again, just because it's a thing. So I actually went to the ER last Thursday because I was having chest pains. And as a double open heart surgery patient, when you have chest pains, you go to the ER because it's kind of weird. And really, they chalked it up to stress. They said, hey, your heart's fine. No worries there. You're just kind of stressed out. Well, you're not wrong. So yeah, stress is playing an important role in my life right now. I know it's got a role in yours, so
yeah, a little bit. And
go ahead and kickstart this bad boy.
I mean, and just kind of what we've been dealing with a little bit. We come on here and we're honest about where we're at. I'm prepping a house to move, which can be a stressful time, but I'm prepping a house to move with a wife who's a little laid up right now. She's kind of bummed up her knee pretty good, and so while I'm prepping a house to move, I'm also kind of having to play a little bit of caretaker at home, which I gladly do because I love my wife, but it's just the compounding effect of all these little things.
Right.
But it's really an interesting thing. I was giving it some thought, and when I stopped and think, because I had this moment last week where my stress level was kind of at a high. And I really started to think that what is it that's really getting to me in this moment?
Right.
And it came back to this idea that it wasn't the out of the ordinary things. It wasn't the out of the ordinary stressors. It wasn't that my wife was laid up. It wasn't really that my house is in disarray a little bit as we're prepping a house to move. It was everything else that normally I give attention to.
Right.
That I was allowing to have a foothold in my life.
Okay.
That just normal stressors at work, normal stressors of getting bills paid and doing all those other things that are just part of life.
Adulting.
That I hate that word.
I know. It's adulting. I know you don't.
Oh my goodness.
I couldn't stop myself.
Yeah. But when it comes down to it is those were the things that were pushing me over the edge. It wasn't the out of the ordinary things. It was that the out of the ordinary things took a little bit of my attention away from being able to focus on how I normally deal with the things that are just every day. And so as we started kind of thinking about what this episode would be about, and, it kind of came up through me saying, when you said, well, my heart's been a little off, I said, well, you got a little bit going on, brother. I wonder if it was a stress thing.
Yeah.
And you said, that's exactly what the doctor said.
Yep.
And so I started thinking about, what are some of the just prevailing norms that I see in society about stress. And the first thing that I see is that people try to do everything in their power to avoid it.
To avoid stress.
To avoid stress in their lives. Well, and the truth is that's fundamentally counterproductive. Because avoiding the things that stress me out is often the most stressful thing I can do.
So let's say if you were stressed about your bills and you just avoided your bills, you're saying that would be counterproductive.
I believe that would be very counterproductive because the byproduct of it would be a lot more damaging things in my life.
So that would add more stress.
It would.
Yeah.
So when we try, but we live in a society that tries to avoid these things. And I see this like even with my teenage daughter. She'll come home and she goes, it's Dad, it's just so stressful. And I just want a day with no stress. And I try not to laugh because it's not possible.
Correct.
And the scripture talks about that. When I come on here, we talk about scripture. And what does scripture have to say?
Yep.
And John 16:33 just is very clear. Jesus is talking. He says, in this world, you will have troubles.
We refer to that one a lot on this show.
We do talk about that a lot because it's so important.
Very important.
For us to remember that we can't live a trouble-free life.
No.
It is part of what we do. I was checking out this this TED Talk.
Huh, I like TED Talks.
I like TED Talks.
Yeah.
And I was checking out this TED Talk by a lady, and I'm not going to attempt her name because I will horribly mispronounce it.
Yeah, don't do it.
But she works for the University of Southern California.
Okay.
And she made the comment that trying to avoid stress or ignoring the stress in our life doesn't allow stress to do what it can, doesn't allow it to actually benefit us the way that it can. Because it creates different, chemically and biologically, it creates different things in our brain that cause us to work at a higher level.
Oh.
She said, think about the things she referenced is, how like if you're having a test, sometimes a little bit of stress before a test drives you to become more prepared.
Okay.
If you're worried about a sporting event, it drives you to become a little more prepared.
That's true.
She said, so it's not necessarily that we need to avoid it. She goes, it's almost the opposite. She goes, it's chemically and biologically, we almost need to embrace it and realize that this is part of life, and we can either allow it to wreck us,
right,
or we can allow it to grow us.
That's excellent points right there.
And so I just think that's the first thing that I've been thinking about.
Okay.
And so the second thing on this is also though realizing is when we look at what's happened to us during stressful situations, is thinking that we can emerge from a stressful circumstance unscathed or unchanged is precisely the wrong way to think about things.
That's very true.
But we all talk, we've talked on here before about sandpaper people who just come in and they help us fine out our, round off our sharp edges.
Oh, I thought they're the ones that rubbed us the wrong way.
They are a little bit of that too. But these things, if we allow these stressors in our lives and we embrace them, but we face them head on and realize it's here and it's happening for a reason.
Yeah.
And that reason vertically with Christ is for him to begin to shape and mold us and shape and mold our reliance upon him. Another verse that we talk about here often is Matthew 18:10.
Yeah.
It says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest."
Yep.
In the middle of our normal days, running to Christ, it's not that the stress is going to go away, but it'll allow a reprieve.
Yes. Very true.
It'll allow a momentary reprieve to allow us to realign our thinking and realign our focus on where it needs to be, which is vertically.
Right.
And it allows us to not run, but embrace that moment of stress and be able to look forward with hope to what comes in the end. So that's, when we think about us as adults, this idea of running from stress or thinking that these things can happen and we're going to be the same person at the end of it. Guys, listen to me. It's foolish. It really is. You can't hide from these things. You can't. Now, there are things in our lives that are big stressors that can come into our lives. But if we are able to adequately understand and embrace what those smaller stressors allow in our lives, if we can face those in the right way, it gives us the backbone and the ability to face those larger things in a more helpful way. But if we're consistently running from the small things, when the big thing shows up, we're screwed.
Yeah, just a little bit.
So I don't know what.
Well, no, I'm just kind of sitting here listening, and there are times, and people who know me know that I'll do this. There are times where if I'm overly stressed out or if there's just a lot going on, I will find what I call a kid-free weekend where I don't have my daughters, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna park my car in the garage Friday after work, and then I am not leaving again until Monday morning when I go back to work. I'm gonna take a weekend. I'm gonna relax. I'm gonna chill. I'm just gonna stay home. I'm gonna stay in. I'm gonna do this, that, and the other. And that's really where I am running away from my stressors. But what do? You sit around your house, or I'll sit around here, and I'll stress about my stress. I'll start worrying about the things that I'm not addressing, that I'm not doing. And then my grand plan of relaxation just becomes, oh man, wow, now I'm being lazy and I'm not being productive. And now I need to go do this and I need to do that. And boy, why did I decide I was going to stay home this weekend? I should have just done this. And you start worrying more and more. And again, I know people are laughing who's like, yeah, he does that.
Yeah.
And it never goes the way I want. I've never gone back to work Monday morning, talked to someone and said, oh my gosh, that weekend was so great. I feel so relaxed. I slept great. I was healthy. I did that. No, it's like, man, I'm tired. I had a terrible weekend.
So I think this is an interesting way there's an interesting way to look at this. And I heard a guy named Andy Stanley talk about this one time, and he's a pretty smart dude.
That's not hard with the people at this table.
Be quiet.
Sorry.
No, he's a pretty smart dude. And he said that what we have to realize is that in life there are problems to be solved and tensions to be managed.
Mm-hmm.
And I think oftentimes when it comes to stressors in our lives, we view some stressors, things that are the norm, things that are just part of life, as problems to be solved rather than tensions to be managed.
Okay.
Like the loss of a job is a problem to be solved.
Yes, it is.
you know, being tired when I come home from work is attention to be managed. And there are things you can do, but it's just part of life. You know, a problem to be solved is my car broke down.
Mhm.
That's a problem to be solved. My teenager got sassy is attention to be managed.
Oh, I'll manage it.
You're not going to be able to solve that problem.
No, you have to manage that.
You have to manage those things. Yeah. You know, a problem to be solved is hey, listen, I'm really, really sick and I need to go to the doctor. That's a problem to be solved.
Right.
That's a stressor, but it's a problem to be solved. Attention to be managed is, I don't necessarily like my job right now.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Okay, but you're still getting there are still things that are happening that if you just view that as a problem to be solved immediately and go and bail, right, then look at what's going to happen because of it.
Right.
So there's that. And so the answer really is, when we have attention to be managed and the tension becomes too much, it is run to Jesus.
Yeah.
Now, there is another side to this coin.
What?
There is. And this is where, and rarely do I really get on a soapbox here.
Ooh, should I pull it out from under the table? Do you want to stand up?
No, I'm good.
I can go cameraman and up on the soapbox.
But this is the thing. One of the prevailing things also that I have seen and I started to notice is there is a rise. There is a rise in, we talk about suicide here.
Yes.
There is a rise in teenage suicide.
Big time.
The numbers are astonishing. And I'll send them to Kyle so he can post them on the webpage.
Sure.
But they're absolutely astonishing. And the Mayo Clinic did a study and said, so what are some of the stressors
mm-hmm.
that are causing these things to happen within our children?
Okay.
And so they came out with a list, and I'm going to read through these.
Sure.
And I want, and if we are parents,
which most of the people
watching, most of the folks who listen to the show are,
yep,
we need to stop and look at this and say, how much of this has our names on it?
Mm-hmm.
So the first one, the first one is not something that really has our name on it. It's faster child development. Kids just they're getting smarter earlier. They're getting to learn things at a younger age, and so that's it's a stressor because kids are outgrowing kid
right.
earlier.
Yeah, they are.
The second one that they state is high academic pressures
mm-hmm.
from people of influence. Now they go on to say this: this is not the school system.
No,
these are parents who expect that my child is going to get straight A's, or my child mm-hmm. is going to be the valedictorian, or my child mm-hmm. is going to get this academic scholarship, or my child is going to get these things. Or they start hearing their parents talk about, well, Johnny's so smart because he can do this at this age. When then the truth of the matter is, Johnny might not be able to wipe his butt yet.
I'm sorry for Johnny's classmates.
Right?
I'm very sorry for their classmates.
Johnny might not be able to do, he might be ahead in some of these other areas, but way behind over here.
Right.
And so when we start doing this whole, look how great Johnny is and how smart Johnny is, there comes a point in time when we cross a line. And it becomes a pressure on our kids rather than a praise for our kids.
Well, and I mean, it applies to kids and adults. Unfair comparisons. That
right.
sounds like the overriding term is unfair comparisons.
Unfair comparisons. The next thing on the case is overstuffed schedules.
Uh-huh.
It talks about the average, and this is a little kid's baseball player.
Right.
Okay. They said your average suburban, which we are sitting in the suburbs.
A little bit.
The average suburban young boy or a young girl who plays in baseball or softball.
Yeah.
Not only do they play on one team, but they average playing on 3 teams. Oftentimes the season's overlapping.
Right.
And they were speaking, and what this has led to is unrealistic, just moments where our children cannot be just children. They're not allowed to relax. So they have these overstuffed schedules, which has led to, catch this, I was just reading this also, Dr. James Andrews.
Yeah,
Dr. James Andrews is Tommy John surgeon.
Yeah.
One of the foremost surgeons in the United States.
Would he be classified as orthopedic surgeon?
I would believe so.
It might be. He might be more than that, but everyone knows
just
him.
The best.
Sports-wise.
He's just the best at sports injuries and that sort of stuff. There was an article that he was talking about that 20 years ago, when he first started doing Tommy John surgeries himself, the average age for a Tommy John surgery was 31 years old.
Right.
For a professional baseball player.
Yeah, it was old pitchers who blew out their arm.
Guys who blew out their arm.
Yeah.
Now the average age for the first Tommy John surgery is 21.
Mm-hmm.
And they attributed it to the mass amount of playing that children do. So not only are we stressing them mentally, but we're stressing them physically beyond what they should.
Yeah.
So, okay, it keeps going. It says here, media saturation and viewing adult content.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just going to keep reading here.
Keep going.
So not enough sleep.
Yeah.
And then family disruption.
Okay. Expand on family disruption.
It says here, family disruption. I'm just going to read this quote. It says, It says family issues like parental illness, which sometimes we have no control over.
Correct.
Deployment, which sometimes it happens.
Yeah.
Or divorce can really stress out kids.
What?
Yeah. It says the divorce rate has remained fairly stable over the past decade or so.
At 50%. Ridiculous.
With about 1.5 million children each year added each year to the number of kids who are living in homes of divorced parents.
Yep. Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah. It goes on to say, but few children of the 1980s and 90s endured the anxiety of prolonged and frequent parental deployments. Today, more than 2 million American children have had a parental deployed at Iraq or Afghanistan. Yeah. I'm not saying, listen, God bless the soldiers.
Oh yeah, we're not blaming anyone for having to get deployed. You don't get that option. They say go, you go.
Yeah, but there's these things, and then this is the last one.
Okay.
Parental stress that is spoken about in front of the children.
Ooh.
Guys, the family is a child stress buffer.
Supposed to be.
It's supposed to be.
Supposed to be.
But when the family struggles and can't play that role, the child is going to feel even more tension.
Oh, yeah.
So, guys, here's the thing. If you look at this list, and I'm not saying, listen, we all do the best we can. But when it comes to our children, these things that are stressors that we have control over, because there's not a single one of the things that I just listed that we as parents don't have control over, other than maybe the early developmental, the more rapid development.
And deployment.
Yeah. Other than those, and illness. But
yeah.
of the big things here, parental stress.
We can do that.
Divorce.
Yep.
I'm just going to go up the list here.
Okay.
Our kids not getting enough sleep.
Our fault.
Yeah. Media saturation and viewing of adult content. Over busy schedule.
Our fault.
And high academic pressures.
Our fault.
Our fault. Guys, we owe it to our children not to alleviate the stress from their life, but to minimize the massive stressors that they are not equipped at a young age to deal with.
Well, we're not equipped to deal with it either. But
well, true. But we should have better skills at dealing with it than them.
Yeah.
Now, please listen. I am not saying fight for your kids to live a stress-free life. Don't do that.
Well, it's not going to happen.
Wrong. Well, it's wrong.
Unreasonable expectations.
It's an unreasonable expectation. You just can't, because what ends up happening is then your kids grow up thinking, "Oh, I should live this stress-free life." When in all honesty, what we should be doing is allowing certain amounts of stress into our child's life and helping them through it in a healthy way. Yeah. Helping them see that this can help you become better. My daughter Hope, and I absolutely love my daughter Hope.
Well, I would hope so.
I do. I think she is phenomenal. Just came back from NJROTC Nationals.
Yep.
went down with a very high expectation of herself, which I did not argue with.
No.
Because I appreciate her high expectation of herself. But she came back having not met the goal that she went down to reach.
Right.
And the first thing that she called me and said, "Dad, can you fly me home early?"
Ooh.
And of course my answer was no.
That costs money.
Well, I didn't even talk that. I just said no. I'm not going to do that, because I needed her to be able to face that. But in the rest of the time that she was there, and I'm not saying I did this perfectly, but in the rest of the time that I was there, speaking of Hope, that's who was just trying to call me. She's not listening, but you know, I would send her little notes reminding her that her success or failure there did not define who she was.
Right.
And helping her get the right mindset that the best they did, because she even said, we performed better than we had ever performed before, and it just wasn't good enough. And but to help her deal with some of these stressors, and she came home and said, "Dad, it's a tough pill to swallow, but I'm going to have to."
That's correct. Yeah.
And so guys, we can allow our children from young age all the way till they leave our home, differentiating levels of stress in their life. But we have to be able to say, we have to not add to that ourselves.
Right.
With our own foolishness.
It's one of those things, and I'm not arguing with what you said, but I don't even think it's allowing stress. The stress is going to happen. Sure. It's correctly guiding them through it.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, and that's splitting hairs.
Yeah, what I was getting at is don't try to alleviate it.
Right. No.
Don't try to take it away.
Because it's not going to happen. That's not going to work.
You know.
And it's only going to make things worse. Only going to be more stressful if you're going to say, "Oh, well, don't be stressed. Why are you stressed about this? You shouldn't be stressed about this. Why are you stressed? Stop being stressed." Oh,
I mean, as a dad, when Hope called me, the truth is, the thought that went in my head is, I'd carry this for her in a heartbeat.
Sure, and
I would carry this weight for her in a heartbeat, and so she didn't have to go through what she's going through.
Because we're fixers. We want to fix that problem. If that means taking it,
as Mike Gundy once said at Oklahoma State, I'm a man. I'm 40. I'm not quite 40, but I'm close. And so there's this element of, because I love her, I would carry that, but because I love her, I have to let her go through it.
Right. You have to help her get through that particular stress without doing anything stupid, which is kind of the final piece of this. And I know we're up against it right now.
We are.
And we've talked about this before, though. Stress, it happens. What stress does is it leads us to what can be very unhealthy coping mechanisms for stress.
Very much.
And as we've talked about mental health and the things that we do kind of stupid, look, I understand you're going to get stressed. I understand crap ain't going to go your way. Trust me, it hasn't gone mine all that often. Don't reach for the things that are going to be destructive to you in order to alleviate a moment of stress. The stress is not eternal. It will not last forever. Nothing lasts forever.
Sure.
Even my good looks will someday fade.
I don't think so.
I don't think so. It might happen.
I doubt it. I mean, strikingly good looking.
I'm saying it's the beard. It covers all the problems.
It is. I saw you a few weeks ago without it. So
frightening. But yeah, so just be careful on how you're dealing with the stress in your life. Look, the kids get stressed. It's not like you can say, "Let's go drinking." That's just not how this works. So you be careful about you reaching for the bottle, or even something a little harder than that, or however you found that you deal with it. You know, whether you go out and eat, 16 ice cream cakes from Baskin Robbins, or if you are reaching for the bottle, if you're reaching for a little worse, if you're out there finding strangers and making poor decisions, whatever it is, just keep it in your mind.
Yeah.
The stress is temporary. Some of these mistakes we can make will last longer.
And the little ones be watching, so you got to pay attention.
Little ones, they always be watching.
So, hey, speaking of the drinking thing, you brought up last time we were on about how the months of May and June. You're going to take a reprieve.
I will be alcohol free in all its varying forms.
As a way to bring light to suicide awareness.
Well,
am I correct?
Suicide awareness, and really, like I said, the mistakes that I had made in dealing with mental health. There are people who struggle with alcohol abuse, and if you want to reach out, and again, it was my bonding. It's the way I bond. Everyone that I talk to, have I not said, "Let's grab a beer together"? Okay, well, what if this person has suffered from alcohol abuse? What if they're trying to recover?
Yeah.
And here I am saying, let's bond over something that almost potentially killed you.
Yeah.
So no, it's because in May it's Armed Forces Day. My work that I do with military through Team Fidelis. June is PTSD Awareness Month.
Well,
so those two combined together equals no drinking.
Well, here's what I'm going to be doing.
Okay.
Because I thought about what you were doing and thinking about this, and I wanted you to re-explain. So,
right.
Thinking about what you're doing because might not have been the wisest decision to invite somebody out for a beer. And for me, by looking at this svelte appearance, you can only imagine that the way I tend to deal with stress is with a cheeseburger.
Correct.
Or multiple cheeseburgers.
Right.
And and that's what I do to invite people out for it as well. Is I say let's go eat.
Yeah.
And it generally isn't let's go eat something good or do something good for ourselves. It's let's go find the biggest, fattest, cheesiest, greasiest burger that we can fit in our face and then eat 12 of them.
Correct.
And so I've kind of decided, you're doing what you're doing, taking the reprieve from alcohol, and for me, and this it's going to benefit me, but I think it's also the same thing. It's going to be a reminder to me that when somebody comes to me with something that we need to go do something that's good for them rather than just replacing one stressor with something that will cause more stress as they feel bad the next day because they just ate 3 pounds of grease. And so for May and June, which is what you're doing.
Yep.
Monday through Friday, I'm going to take the weekends off.
Okay.
But Monday through Friday for the month of June, I'm going to run a mile a day, and then each week I'm going to add a quarter of a mile to each day.
Okay.
So like on week 1, it's for 5 days in a row. It's going to be a mile.
Yeah.
The next week will be a mile and a quarter each day.
That's a lofty goal.
And this is what I'm going to. But it's and it might be walking some of it.
Well, sure.
And it might be, sauntering some of it. It might be crawling some of it as those days get a little bit further. But at the end of it, it's a reminder for myself. But 2, my goal in that is each week to invite one person along with me for one of those jogs or runs.
Yeah, or if it's a walk.
Or a walk.
Yeah.
Who I know is dealing with some stress and being able to use that as an outlet and a catalyst to begin a conversation.
Sure.
So that's what I'm going to be doing.
I like it.
Through the month of May and June.
May and June.
So in May and June, that's 9 weeks.
Yep. This
year. So by the end of that will be I'll be running. On that last week, it'll be 3 and a quarter mile a day.
There you go.
For 5 days.
Wow.
And I figure if I keep that, then I might be able to come run one of your little jogs with you.
Well, yeah, no, that wouldn't be difficult right now with my speed or lack thereof.
Listen, I know that I look like a gazelle.
What you do? You look very Kenyan.
I do. Yeah. I look like a gazelle or a gazelle that just ate a rhinoceros, and
poor gazelle.
Poor gazelle. Gonna have indigestion for years.
Yeah.
But I'm not the speediest fellow myself.
Right.
So we'd be going about the same speed. It'd be okay.
There you go.
But I even got new shoes for it. So
nice. All right.
So that's what I'm going to be doing.
So that's what we're going to do. So if you guys want in on that, and again, I'm not saying you have to make some big, huge life change. This isn't, New Year's resolution.
No,
just find something different. And to Joe's point, physical activity, great stress relief. Huge stress relief.
I know it served a great purpose for you.
Yeah, and I would say running saved my life 9 years ago when I was so angry and had so much energy coming out of my divorce, and I didn't know what to do except destructive things. And guy at work, Kirk Johnson, like, dude, why don't you try running? And
you said, look at me, I look like a gazelle that just ate a rhinoceros.
I said something along those lines, probably with a few more curse words. But yeah, and I've been doing it ever since. Just ran a half marathon on Saturday. So, so find something. You don't have to share it. You don't have to make it a public thing.
Nope.
Just find that something,
I just happen to have a public forum. So,
right. I'm going to do it in May and June.
And me too.
See how it goes.
If you want to come jogging with me,
you can.
I'm in.
There you go.
You can come find me.
So that's going to do it for this week. I will be on next week. You'll have to forgive me, but next week, Avengers Endgame comes out, so I will be in full-blown fanboy mode, waiting for my midnight showing on Thursday. So I'm warning you now, that's going to happen. I will be in all my Marvel gear. It's going to be great. I'm so excited.
Awesome.
So, yeah, close out in prayer.
Awesome, we'll do. Jesus, I just come to you this evening saying, thank you. Thank you that you are the ultimate reprieve from the stressors of life, and that you are the source of strength that we need to get through them. I pray that this evening that we were able to just talk and to one person and say, listen, this doesn't have to, the normalcy of stress doesn't have to be the end of who you are. That it can be something that you build upon and you build from. So Jesus, I give you the rest of this evening. I thank you again for this time. I love you. I'll talk to you soon. Amen.
Amen. All right, everyone.
Later, everybody.
We will see you next week, or I'll see you next week. Joe will see his side of the screen, and I'll just I'll talk at you. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. One shout out. Polly Papa George done popped on this show. Polly, if you are still watching, I love you, my friend, and I miss you very much. We got to see each other real soon. I see you're training for a 5K with your kiddos. You are awesome. I love Polly, and I will see you all next week. Stay safe. Have a good week, everybody.